Hello everyone, we have to discuss about that class 7th NCERT science question, chapter number 1 देख लेते हैं। चैप्टर नंबर 1 ले आइए यहाँ सो रहा nutrition in plant in class 6 and you learn and that the food is the essential and for all the living organs and you also the learn and that the carbohydrate protein fats vitamin and the minerals are component of the food and thus component of food are called the nutrient and are the necessary for our the bodies and all living organisms and require food plants can the synthesis and food themselves and but the animals including human cannot. They get it from the plants or the animals and that eat plants and thus the human and animals are the directly or indirectly independent on plants. And Buju wants to know and how plants prepares and their own food and 1.1 mode of nutrition in plants and plants are the only organism and that can prepare food for themselves and by using the water, carbon dioxide and the minerals and the raw material are presented in their the surrounding. The nutrient and enables and living organism and be to build theirs the bodies and to grow to repairs damages and part of their the bodies and provide the energy and to carry out life processes. ले आजा बिट्टू ले दिखाएंगे ले चीज खा लो लो ले काला काला कट काला 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 ले काला जेंगे काला काला कट काला Nutrition is the mode of the taking food and by and the organism and its utilizations and by the bodies and the mode of the nutrition in which the organism and make food themselves and from the simple substance is called the autotropic and auto self the tropes and the nutriments and nutritions and therefore plants are called the autotrophs and animals and the most others and organisms take in the food prepared and by the plants and they are called the heterotrophs and heterotrophs other. Paheli wants to know and why ours the body and cannot make food from the carbon dioxide and water and minerals and like the plant do. And now we may. Plant all called the neutrotrophs and animals and the most others the organism and take take in the food presented in the plant, and they are called the heterotrophs. Paheli wants to. Paheli and wants to know and why our bodies and cannot make food and from the carbon dioxide and water and minerals and like plant do. And now we may ask and where the food factories of the plants are located and whether the food is made in all the parts of the plant and or the only in the certain parts, and how do plants and obtain the raw materials and from the surroundings, and how do they transport them to the food factories of plants, and photosynthesis and food making process in plants, and leaves are the food and factories of the plant, and therefore all the raw materials and must reach the leaves, and water and minerals present in the soil are absorbed by the roots and transported into the leaves, and carbon dioxide and from air is taken in. You have seen the buildings and are made of the bricks, and similarly the body of the living and organism are made of the teeny units called cells, and cell can be the seen and only the under the microscopes, and some the organism and are made of only one cells, and the cell is the enclosed and by the thin outer boundaries and called the cell members, and most of the cells have other district and the centrally and located the peripherals and structures and called the nutrient, and the nutrient is the surrounded by other jelly like substance called the cytoplasm through the teeny porous and the presented on the surface of the lives, and thus the porous and are the surrounded by the guard and cells, and such the porous are the cold and stomatas and bujo wants to. The stream, the branches and are the leaves, and they form a the continuous path or the passage and for the nutrient and to the reach and the leaves, and they are called the vessels, and you will learn more about and transport of materials and in the plant in chapter 11. Paheli wants to know what is so and the special about the leaves, and that they can the synthesis and food, but others the parts of the plants cannot. The leaves have the green pigment and called the chlorophyll, and it helps and leaves to the captures the energies of the sunlight. This energy is used to the synthesis and prepared food from the carbon dioxide and water, and since the synthesis of food occurs and in the presence of the sunlight, and it is the called the photosynthesis and photolight synthesis to combine, and so we find and that the chlorophylls and sunlight, carbon dioxide and water are the necessary and to carry out the process of the photosynthesis. It is the unique process on the earth, and the solar energy is captured by the leaves and the stems in the plant in the forms of the food, and the sun is the ultimate and source of the energy and for all living organisms. Can you imagine life on the earth in the absence of the photosynthesis? In the absence of the photosynthesis, and there would not be any the food and the survivals of the almost and all the living organisms, and directly or indirectly dependence upon the food and the made by the plants and the besides oxygen, which is essential for the survival. Besides leaf and photosynthesis also takes and place in others the green parts of the plants, and in the green stem and the green branches and the desert plants, and have the scales and or the spine like the leaves to the reduce and loss of the water by transpirations, and thus the plants and have green steam which carry out the photosynthesis. All the organism is the produced and during the photosynthesis. In the absence of the photosynthesis, and life would be the impossible on the earth. And during photosynthesis, chlorophylls and containing the cell of leaves. In the presence of sunlight, and use the carbon dioxide and water to the synthesis. Carbohydrate the process and can be represented in and the equation. Carbon dioxide plus water and sunlight and chlorophyll. Second, carbon dioxide plus water and sunlight and chlorophyll and guard cells and stomata. Stoma section of a leaf and the stomatals and openings, the guard cells and leaf. Carbohydrate in leaf, water and minerals, and diagram showing the photosynthesis and light energy and carbohydrate. During the process on oxygen is released. The presence of the starch in leaves and indicated the occurrence of the synthesis, and starch is also carbohydrate. Buju and has observed some the parts and with the deep and red violet or the brown leaves. He wants to the now and whether thus the leaves and also the carry out photosynthesis activity. One take to the potted and plants of the same kinds and keep one in the dark sun or in other black box for the 72 hours and the others in sunlight. Carbohydrates are made of the carbon, hydrogen and oxygen, and thus are the used to synthesis and other the component of the food and such as the proteins and fat. But protein are the nitrogenous and substance and which contain mitro from where do the plant obtain and nitrogen? Recall that the nitrogen is presented in the substance and in the gaseous form in the air, and however the plant cannot be the observed nitrogen in these forms, and shoal has the certain bacteria and that converted gaseous nitrogen into other usable. Nitrogen. Also, you might have seen the farmer adding fertilizer rich in the nitrogen to the soil, and in this the ways and plants and fulfill their the requirement of nitrogen along with the other constituent, and plant can then and the synthesis protein and vitamins. Other mode of the nutrition and the plants. Nutrition in plants, and there are the some plants and which do not and have the chlorophylls, and they cannot the synthesis and food. How do they the survive, and from where do they the derive the nutrition? Le Other modes on the nutrition in plant. There are the some plants and which do not and have the chlorophyll. Second, and they cannot the synthesis food, and how do they survive, and the froms and where do they and the derived and nutrition, and like the humans and animals. Such plants depended on the food and the produced and by the others and plants, and they use the heterotropics and made of the nutrition. And look at the figures 1.5, and do you the see the yellow wiry and benches and structure twinings and around the stems and the benches of either tree. And this is the plant and called the Cascota amarvel. It does not have the chlorophylls, and it takes the ready-made and food from the plants, and on which it is the climbings and the plants, and on the watch it. Climb is called the host, and the since it is deprived the host of the valuable nutrient. Cascota is called the parasites and are we and the others animals and also other kind. also a kind of the parasites, and you. You should think about it and the discuss and with your teachers. And Paheli wants to know and whether the mosquitoes and bed bugs and lice and the leeches and that the shuck covers the blood and are also the parasites. Have you seen or the heard of the plant and that can the eat animals? And they are other few plants and which can the traps and insects. Insect and digest them, and it is not the amazing and such plants and maybe the green or of the maybe the green air or of the some others the colors and look at the plant is the fig and 1.6 and the pictures like or the jug and like an structures in the modified part of the leaf and the apex of the leaf forms are the lid and which can the opens and close the mouth of the pitch and the inside the pictures and there are here and which are the directed and downwards and when and the insect and land in the pictures. The lid close and the trapped and insect and get the entangled and into. Into the hair and the lids and close and the insect and is the trapped. The insect is digested by the digestive juice and secretes secretes in the pictures and it is the nutriented and are the observed such the insect and it's the nutriented and are observed such the insect eating the plants and are the cold and the insectivorous plants. It is possible that such the plants and do not get all the required and nutrition and from the soils in which they grow. Buju is the confused and if the pictures and plant is the greens and the cries and out the photosynthesis, then why does it is the feed on the insects? Picture plant and showing the leaves and the pictures and leaf the modified saprotrops. अरे कोई नहीं है. Saprotrops you might have seen and the packages of the mushrooms sold in the vegetables market and you may have also and seen the fluffy and the umbrellas and like the patches and growing in the most soil and or on the rotting sun food the during the rainy seasons. ले जाऊंगी अभी आजा ले निकाल तो मैं एकदम से कौन दिया कौन दी अरे ले 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 आराम से काट रहा हूं ला ले ले बाय कर लो बाय कमरे को कर Would you wants to know and how does the organism cure? आराम से One minute. La. Take other piece, take other piece and take other piece of the bread and the moistens and it with and the waters and leaves in it in the moist and warms and places and for the 2 and 3 days. 2 and 3 days and over the untils and the fluffy pitches appears on them and the what is the basis. What is the color of the dust and the patches and the observe the patches and under other microscopes and or other magnified and class and write down and you are the observations and in the notebook and you will see the cottons and like the thread spreads and on the piece of bread. Fungi and growing on the bread and thus the organism and are the called fungi and they have either different mode of the nutrition. They observe the nutrition and from the bread and this mode of the nutrition in which the organism and take in the nutriented from dead and the decaying and matters is called the saprotrophics and nutrition. Such organism and with the saprotrophics and made of the nutrition are called the saprotrophics and fungi also grow on the pickles and leathers the clothes and the others and articles and that are the left is hot and the humid and bathers for long time and during the rainy seasons and they spoil many things and ask yours the patients and about the manage of fungi and in your the house and the fungals and spores are the generally presented in the year and when they land on Paheli skin and to now and whether her the beautiful shoes and which she wears and on the special occasion and where the spoiled and by the fungi during the rainy seasons and she wants to know and how the fungi appear suddenly during the rainy season. Bujo and says and once his the grandfathers and told him and that his wheat field and were the spoiled and by other fungus and he wants to the now and if the fungi causes and diseases and also the Pahelian told him and that the many fungi and like yeast and the mushrooms are the full useful and but the some fungi and causes diseases in plants animals including the humans and some the fungi are also the used is the medicines waste and warm things and they the journey may germinates and the grows and now can you the fungus figures and our out how we can the protect and our the things and from getting the spoiled and some organism and live the together and shares the both shelters and nutrient and this the relationships is called the some symbiosis and for the examples and certain the fungi and live the inside the root of the plants and the plants provides and nutrient to the fungus and in the returns and the fungus and provides and waters probiotics and waters and certain the nutrient in the organism called the leaches the chlorophylls and the containing partners and which is and the algas and the fungus and lives the together the fungus and provides the shelter and water and the minerals and to the alga and in the return the algas and prepared and the provided food to the fungus. How nutrient are the replenished in the soils. Have you seen farmers and spreading the manners or the fertilizers and in the field or the garden using them in the lawns and or in the pots? And do you know and why this is the done and will you learn that the plants absorb minerals and nutrition and from the soils and so there's the amounts in the soils and keep on the declines and fertilizers and manures and contain the nutrient and such as the nitrogen potassiums and phosphorus etc and thus the nutritions need to be the uses needed to be the aided and from time to time and enrich. usually crops and plants. You have seen farmer and fertilizer and manners and or the fertilizer in the field. Usually crops plant and absorb a lot of the nitrogen and the soils and because becomes and the defeats and in the nitrogen and you learn that the throw and the nitrogen gas is available is the plenty in the airs and the plants and cannot use and it in the manners and they can use the carbon dioxide and they needs the nitrogen in other solubles and forms the bacteria and called the rhizobiums and can tax atmospherics and nitrogens and convert it into other usables and forms and but the rhizobiums cannot make it the oven's food and so it often and lives in the root of the grams and peas and monks the bean and the others and the legumes and provides them and with the nitrogens and in the returns the plants and provided the food and the shelters to the bacterias and bacterias they thus have other symbolic and relationship this the associated is great is of the great significance of the farmers and they can the reduced the use of the nitrogen fertilizer where the leguminous plants are grown and most of the pulses and dal are the obtained and from the leguminous and plants and in this the chapter and you learn that the most of the plants and are the autotrophs and only the few plants and are the parasites and or the strocyde and they derived and nutriented from others the organism and all the animals are the categorized and as the heterotrophs and since they the adopt and on the plants and others the animals and for food and can be say and that the insectivorous and plants are the partials and heterotrophs keywords and autotropics and autotropic insectivorous and photosynthesis chlorophyll second and heterotrophs and host nutrition parasites and saprotos and saprotrophics and stomata what you have learned all organisms need food and the utilize and it is to the get energies and from the growth and the maintenance of their bodies and green plants synthesis food from the themselves and by the process of the photosynthesis they are the autotrophs and plants like the cactus castuvas and the parasites and they take food from the host plants and plant use the simple chemical substances and like the carbon dioxide and oxygen and minerals and the synthesis of the food for the synthesis of the food and the chlorophylls and waters carbon dioxide and the sunlights and are the essentials and requirement for the photosynthesis complex and the chemicals and substances such as the carbohydrate and are the product of the photosynthesis solar energy is absorbed by the chlorophylls and present in the leaves plants oxygen is produced during photosynthesis oxygen released in photosynthesis is utilized by living the organism for their the survival many fungi derive nutrition from the dead and the decays and matters they are the saprotrophs and if the few plants and all the animals are the dependent on the others and for their the nutrition and are called heterotrophs exercise why do organisms take food extended learning activities and project टेक द पोटेट एंड उसमें प्लांट्स का ऑब्जर्व करना है वो तो light is so important to the plant and that their the lives and grow in many the pattern and so as to the observe maximum sunlight exercise Why do organisms need to the take food? Answer: all living organisms required and food to the survive. It is give them the energy to perform various activities. All activities such as the playings, runnings and walking and studyings, etc. required energy. The various components and presented in our the food such as the carbohydrate, protein, fats, vitamin and minerals, etc. provided energy to our the body, and thus are the also important for growth and the development of the body. Distinguish between the parasites and the saprotites. Parasites and saprotes: the organism that the growth on the bodies of the organism and derive the nutrition from it, the held and known as other parasites called the saprotites. The organism that the obtain nutricide and from another or decaying the organism matter is example of parasites and cascutas and orchids. Example of saprotites are fungi and some bacteria. Question number 3. How would you taste and the present of the stomach in leaves? Experience to taste the present of the starch in leaves and take to the healthy greens and potted plants of the some types and keep one the potted and plants in other dark rooms for 1 or 2 days in the orders and to remove all the starch and from the leaves and keep the others plants in sunlight. And now take and one leaves and from the each potted plant and put other few drops of the iodine and solution on them and then notes down the observation. Plants kept in the light or the dark condition, no blue, blacks and colors, and will be the observed on the leaves of plants and kept in the dark room, and this the indicated and the observed absence of the starch, blue and black colors, and will be the observed and on the live leaves and of the plants kept in the sunlight, and this the indicated the presence of starch. Give other brief descriptions of the process of the synthesis and of the food in the green plants. Photosynthesis is defined and as the process in which the chlorophylls and containing the plants and cell the synthesis food in the forms of the carbohydrate and using the carbon dioxide and the water in presence of the solar energy. Carbohydrate organ. Oxygen is released and carbohydrate is formed. Photosynthesis and the source of low materials and required for the photosynthesis. Water is taken in the forms the roots and of the plants and is the transported to the leaves, and carbon dioxide and from the airs and the enter the leaves and through the tiny spores and called the stomatas and diffuses and to the cell containing the chlorophyll. Solar energy is used to the bricks and water into the hydrogen and oxygen, and this the oxygen is the combined and with the carbon dioxide and to the forms food. Food for the plants and which is the ultimately and used by the animals as well, and thus the photosynthesis can be the presented by the following equations: carbon dioxide plus water and sunlight, the chlorophylls and carbohydrate plus oxygen. So with the help of either starch and that the plants and are the ultimate source of food. Photosynthesis and light energy: carbon dioxide, chlorophylls in leaves and the oxygen in release, glucose in formed and water and fill in the blanks. And green plant are called the autotrophs, and since they the synthesis and there's the one food. B. The food synthesis by the plants is the stored and as the starch in the photosynthesis, and solar energy is captured by the pigmented called the chlorophyll, and during the photosynthesis plant take in the carbon dioxide and release the oxygen. Following the name the following: a parasitic plants and with yellow shelters and tubular stem. Cascota, a plant that has the both and the heterotropics and the heterotropics and mode of the nutrition, which are plants. The porous through which leaves and exchange gases, stomata. Tick the correct answer. Amarville is the example of. Amarville is the example of heterotrophs and parasites, storms and host का. The plant which trip and the feed on the insect is the pitcher plants. Match the column. क्लोरोफिल का होगा, लीफ होगा, नाइट्रोजन का बैक्टीरिया होगा, अंबर बेल का पैरासाइड होगा, एनिमल्स का हेटेरोट्रॉप्स होगा, इंसेक्ट का पिचर प्लांट्स. ट्रू फॉल्स. Carbon dioxide is released during the photosynthesis F and plants which the synthesis and there the food themselves and are called saprotrophs and false and the product of the photosynthesis is not the protein. True. Solar energy is converted into the chemicals energy during the photosynthesis. True. Choose the correct options and from the following. And which part of the plants and take in the carbon dioxide and from the air and for the photosynthesis. Answer is stomata. Choose the correct options. Plants take carbon dioxide and from the atmosphere mainly through their leaves. Thank you guys. Chapter number 1 is closed.